Hiya! So I have a really popular video that talks about how you can actually use your Canon R10 to record 4K footage in HDR, and I go through all the settings for that, and I don't actually end with how to use the footage later, so I thought I would add this one really quick as a little continuation on how you can actually set up your project files for 4K HDR footage in Final Cut Pro, which is my preferred editing software. So I've got a project here. I'm just going to start from scratch, make a fresh library, and then you choose where you want it to be hosted. I would recommend hosting the library in the exact same place that you're hosting all the files that you are working with, because then it saves any confusion if you have one and not the other. If you're doing it on one hard drive, I have my massive, like 8 terabyte beast thing over here that requires its own power source. I put everything on that. And then if I need to move a project to another hard drive, I try and take everything with it, including the library. You can obviously export it later and then have new settings and relink the files, but I just don't think it's worth the time or the stress of the big red exclamation mark error when you load it up for the first time on the new place. R10 4K test, and I'm just gonna store it in my documents so I know where that is. Now, I don't actually have any footage or projects to put in this. It's going to be this video file here when I do it. If you click on the library here, if you're new to Final Cut Pro, you won't understand this, but this is the library. Within the library, you have events. I tend to name this after the date that I actually shot the footage, because that's how I like storing stuff in my backup archives as well. And then if you go into it, then you can create individual projects, which would be different videos that you want to export in the future. But fundamentally, what you need to know for 4K HDR, you need to go into the library, click on it. In your inspector here, in your library properties, you'll see a button that says modify. That allows you to switch your library and all the events and projects within it from a standard color gamut, which I have a video about different color gamuts as well, and different color profiles, which you can see here. And you need to switch it to a wide gamut HDR. This now allows your projects and your events to have more color options of a wider color space. So you go into the events, you may choose to create a new event if you want different settings for that. Test event within the library that we created, and this says create new project, so it means the settings will carry over. So the last one I did was 2K because I was working with lower resolution base footage, so I need to have it in 4K, and then you can see the dimensions here for 4K options. I'm going with this one. This will depend on the aspect ratio you used, but this is standard for 4K. And then the frame rate you have available, I shot it in 25 frames per second because that is what the R10 allowed for this setting. This is the default codec for when you choose this option. And for the color gamut, now assuming we shot it in the settings that I recommended in my previous video, then we will have shot in PQ. So I need to choose Rec 2020 PQ. And it says right there, wide gamut HDR. The audio is depending on the audio you used. I keep ending up doing like a drift with the wrong hertz, but that's a me issue, not a you issue. Don't worry about that. Just make sure that your hertz syncs up with what you recorded. You click OK. You have a new event. We have a project here where the settings will match the settings that we went with, but you can choose to, if you want, change the color profile within it. Notice if you modify it, then you can actually switch the project within the library from a wide color space to a standard. HDR stands for high dynamic range, so you can put a standard dynamic range video within it, and you can mix footage from the two. It just gives you a wider option if you shot in HDR. HDR test project. And then you're ready to drop in your files and edit as you normally would in Final Cut. Now I'm going to use that exact project that I just made to edit this video, so I will prove to you that it works. If you go into the display options in the YouTube video, you will see that it is visible in HDR. I always find it interesting that it has a little HDR red box that pops up when you're actually watching the video, because it's in the same place as the resolution options. So it goes like low resolution, high resolution, 4K resolution, and then it will also go, by the way, HDR, which is great if you have a device that actually has a HDR screen, like my laptop and some TVs, but it's not very common right now. So if you're watching a HDR project on a device that doesn't have HDR capabilities, then it will appear a little desaturated because it's designed for higher colors that just don't exist. So it will turn up in a standard dynamic range version, which looks a little bland. So if you're watching on a device that doesn't have HDR capabilities right now, this is why everything looks a little more meh than it would otherwise. So I hope HDR becomes standard in the future. So thank you for watching my tutorial. Make sure you like, subscribe, ask me any questions you have in the comments below, and have a nice day.